Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Gnanatiminandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4 Chapter 22 Verse 37 Tattvam Narendra Jagatam Matatastusham cha Dehendriyasu Dishanatmabhir Avrutanam Yakshetravitapataya Hridi Vishwagavihi Pratyakshakasti Bhagavam Stam Avehi Sosmi. Sanat Kumar advised the king, therefore, my dear King Prthu, try to understand the Supreme Person of Godhead who is living within everyone's heart, along with the individual soul in each and every body, either moving or not moving. The individual souls are fully covered by the gross material body and subtle body made of the life air and intelligence. In this verse, it is specifically advised that instead of wasting time in human form of life, endeavoring for economic development and sense gratification, please note, if you are running behind economic development and sense gratification, we are wasting our time. One should try to cultivate spiritual values by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is existing within the individual soul, within everyone's heart. The individual soul and the Supreme Person of Godhead in his Paramatma feature are both sitting within this body, which is covered by gross and subtle elements. To understand this is to attain actual spiritual culture. There are two ways of advancing in spiritual culture: by the method of the impersonalist philosophers and by devotional service. The impersonalist comes to the conclusion that he and the Supreme Spirit are one, whereas devotees or personalists realize the absolute truth by understanding that because the absolute truth is the supreme predominator and we are predominated, our duty is to serve him. Actually, it's crazy actually to think that we are one. Simple, if somebody has constipation, they can't pass stool. That's all our power is. And we think that we are the Supreme Lord. What craziness. The Vedic injunctions say Tattvam Asi, you are the same, and Soham, I am the same. The impersonalist conception of these mantras is that the Supreme Lord or the Absolute Truth and the living entity are one. But from the devotee's point of view, these mantras assert that both the Supreme Lord and ourselves are of the same quality. Tattvam Asi, I am Atma Brahma. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are spirit. That's all it means. Tattvam Asi means I am Brahman, you are also Brahman, but you are Parabrahman. Supreme Lord is Parabrahman. Understanding this is self-realization. The human form of life is meant for understanding the Supreme Lord and oneself. Both Supreme Lord and oneself. By spiritual cultivation of knowledge, one should not waste valuable life simply engaged in economic development and sense gratification. Like I keep saying, this is not just for karmis, this is not just for non-devotees, it is for devotees as well, more so for devotees. We should not waste our time in economic development and sense gratification. We should draw a line. I've been saying this, we should draw a line. How much money is enough? How much money is enough for us? There is no end to this. So people who have money should draw a line, should put a full stop, saying enough. I've wasted enough time. Just imagine, the time we are wasting in doing economic development and sense gratification. If we use for Krishna, we'll accomplish more. Like for example, assume say we have to do 100 hours. I'm just giving like a mundane example. Suppose say we have to do 100 hours of bhakti. And because we are engaged in economic development and sense gratification, we are able to do only 10 hours. So that means we will take so much more time. Maybe it will not happen this life. Maybe again we have to come back next life. But instead, if we just use that, the time that we are wasting for economic development, sense gratification, maybe we'll get another 40 hours. So, so we have to go 100 hours. Maybe we finish 50 hours this life, right? And by doing 50 hours, maybe it will take us to a next level so that we can actually finish off 100 hours in this life. That impetus, that threshold point, we have to cross that threshold point of bhakti. Otherwise, it's simply wasting time. In these words, that is why Bhagavatam says, just labho jive tayavata. Just we should be looking out for, okay, can I just subsist myself? Can I remain alive? So I have to eat. I need some clothes for that. I need a place to stay. That's it, over. Nothing else should be the goal of human life. That's what Bhagavatam says. In this verse, the word kshetravit is also important. This word is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Idam shariram konteya kshetram iti abhidiyate. This body is called kshetra, field of activities. And the proprietors of the body are both called kshetravit, individual soul and super soul. Both are called kshetravit. Vit means knower of the kshetra, knower of the body. But there's a difference between the two kinds of kshetravit. One kshetravit or knower of the body, namely the Paramatma, is directing the individual soul. When we rightly take the direction of the super soul, our life becomes successful. Of course, he's directing us, but we have not paying attention at all, right? We are just engrossed in our own self, in our own false ego. We're not even listening to the super soul. He's directing from within and from without. From within, he's directing as Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master, sitting within the heart, and as Paramatma. Indirectly, he's also helping the living entity by manifesting himself as the spiritual master outside. So, spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord. In both ways, the Lord is giving directions to the living entity so that he may finish up again. Who has to take initiation? One who wants to finish up his material activities. One who is serious about spiritual activities. He should take initiation, not for namesake, not for some fashion. Prabhupada said having a guru is not a matter of fashion. The presence of the Supreme Soul and the individual soul within the body can be perceived by anyone by the fact that as long as the individual soul and super soul are both living within the body is always shining and fresh. But as soon as the super soul and the individual soul give up possession of the gross body, it immediately decomposes. One who is spiritually advanced can thus understand the real difference between a dead body and a living body. In conclusion, one should not waste his time by so-called economic development and sense gratification, but should cultivate spiritual knowledge to understand the super soul and individual soul and their relationship, or just do bhakti. In this way, by advancement of knowledge, one can achieve liberation and ultimate goal of life. He said that if one takes to the path of liberation, even rejecting his so-called duties in the material world, he is not a loser at all. But a person who does not take to the path of liberation, yet carefully executes economic development and sense gratification, loses everything. Narada's statement before Vyasadeva, first canto, chapter 5. Yaktva swadharmam charanambujam harer bhajan apakota patet tato yadi yatra kvava badram abhudamushya kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If a person out of sentiment or for some other reason, it doesn't matter. Maybe somebody was just sentimental. They were not really fixed in devotion, but just sentimentally they gave up work. They gave up their prescribed duty. Or for some other reason, whatever it could be. Somehow, so for some reason or the other, he takes to the shelter of the Supreme, of the lotus feet of the Lord, Tyaktva Swadharmam, giving up his Swadharma, giving up his prescribed duty. Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanambujam Harer. Bhajan apakwa, he was immature, he was still immature. And in due course of time, does not succeed in coming to the ultimate goal of life, or falls down due to lack of experience. There's no loss. Yatra kvava bhadram. But for a person who does not take to devotional service, yet executes his material duties very nicely, there is no gain. Because whatever is gained is all going to get destroyed. Of course, even if he has accumulated some punya, done some punya, next life he might get more material happiness. But that's also chine punya. It's all going to go, deteriorate, decline. Nothing is going to remain with us. Any of this material punya papa is all going to get, it has to be consumed. Punya also has to be consumed, papa also has to be consumed. Once it is consumed, it has to be again, we have to reaccumulate it, meaning more, do more karma. So it's useless. There's no gain. There's no real gain. It's like we go in the giant wheel, go up, again come down. We are in the same place. We are in the same place, but just we are going up, coming down, going up, coming down. That's all. What is the gain? At the end of it, we'll come down, get off the giant wheel, come out, right? The same place from where we got in. So useless, right? We simply wasted time going up and down, up and down, up and down. यस्मिन्निदं सदसद् आत्मतया विभाति माया विवेक विभूति सृजि वाहि बुद्धिः तं नित्यमुक्तपरिशुद्ध विशुद्धतत्त्वं प्रत्यूढ कर्म कलिला प्रकृतिं प्रपद्ये. The Supreme Person of Godhead manifests himself as one with the cause and effect within this body, but one who has transcended the illusory energy by deliberate consideration, which clears the misconception of a snake for a rope, can understand that the Paramatma is eternally transcendental to the material creation and situated in pure internal energy. Thus, the Lord is transcendental to all material contamination. Unto him only must one surrender. Of course, the Paramatma is eternally transcendental to the material creation, situated in pure internal energy, but his role is only limited to material world. There is no need for Paramatma in the spiritual world. This verse is specifically stated to defy the Mayavada conclusion of oneness without differentiation between the individual soul and super soul. The Mayavada conclusion is that the living entity and the super soul are one. There is no difference. The Mayavadis proclaim that there is no separate existence outside the impersonal Brahman, and that the feeling of separation is Maya, by which one considers a rope to be a snake. The rope and the snake argument is generally offered by the Mayavadi philosophers. Therefore, these words, which represent Vivartavada, are specifically mentioned herein. Actually, Paramatma is the Supreme Person of Godhead and is eternally liberated. In other words, Supreme Person of Godhead is living within this body along with the individual soul, and this is confirmed in the Vedas. They are likened to two friends sitting on the same tree, yet Paramatma is above the illusory energy. The illusory energy is called Bahiranga Shakti, and the living entity is called Tadastha Shakti. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the material energy represented as earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc., and the spiritual energy, the living entity, are both energies of the Supreme Lord. Even though the energies and the energetic are identical, the living entity, individual soul, being prone to be influenced by the external energy, considers the Supreme Lord to be one with himself. This is actual illusion. To think that I am the Supreme Lord is illusion. But they say thinking that we are different is illusion. Just opposite. The word prapadye is also significant, for it refers to the conclusion, surrender. Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Onam janmanam ante gnanavan mam prapadyate. Prapadye or sharanam vraja refers to the individual surrender to the super soul. The individual soul, when surrendered, can understand that the Supreme Lord, although situated within the heart, is superior to the individual soul. Lord is always transcendental to material manifestation, even though it appears that the Lord and the material manifestation are one and the same. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, he is one and different simultaneously. Achintya Veda Abheda. The material energy is a manifestation of his external potency. And since the potency is identical with the potent, this is the philosophy. Potency is identical with the potent because it is all spiritual. That is why it is called absolute truth. There is no difference between the body and the soul for Krishna because everything is identical, everything is spiritual. Similarly, him and his potency is non-different because they are all spiritual. He and his name are non-different because they are all spiritual. Mm. So because the potency is identical with the potent, it appears that the supreme and the individual soul are one. But actually, the individual soul is under the influence of the material energy, and Lord is always transcendent to it. Unless the Lord is superior to the individual soul, there is no question of prapadya or surrender unto him. The word prapadya refers to the process of devotional service. Simply by non-devotional speculation on the rope and the snake, one cannot approach the absolute truth. Meaning mm, uh, just by dry philosophical speculation, no practical use of in any way, one cannot approach the absolute truth. Therefore, devotional service is stressed as more important than deliberation or mental speculation to understand the absolute truth. And that is the only way to actually understand Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mama vijanati. Right? If my own life's experience, before I started actively doing bhakti, I was simply reading Bhagavad Gita again and again, but to no gain. I couldn't understand anything. Only when I started, engaging in practical service, chanting, associating with devotees, understanding the mode of devotion, then slowly, steadily, I started understanding Bhagavad Gita. So it's very simple, actually. If you just engage in bhakti, Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. He gives the intelligence to understand him. Not otherwise. Not if you are simply, many so-called devotees who they don't take up any service. They'll just, they'll just sit, mm, come attend programs, sit in class. Mm, okay, that is little devotional service, but that's not like really. That's not prapadya. That's not surrender. Maybe just okay. It's one of the activities in my week, and that's not going to help us. That's very, beginning stage. Being a guest is beginner stage. Prapadya, I've already talked about surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishati iti vishwaso goptatve varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanya shadvida sharanagati. So six aspects of sharanagati we have to follow. We have to do whatever is favorable to Krishna consciousness. That is the first indication to Krishna that we are actually serious about achieving him. When we start doing things which are favorable for him and giving up things which are not favorable for bhakti. Favorable for him means favorable for attaining him. Right? So that is the first indication that jiva is serious. But if we come in touch with bhakti and still material life itself is prominent for us, is important for us, then we will not surrender. Then it's okay. Then it's a very, very early stage, and Krishna will wait for us to make progress, to come and surrender to him. But when a devotee surrenders, Rakshishyati iti Rakshishyati iti Vishwaso Goptrutve Varnam Tata. Right, so Lord will protect Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. He'll give intelligence, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam. He will take care of us. Everything the Lord does. But He's waiting for our surrender. Ye yathamaham prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. To the extent of our surrender, He will reciprocate. Like I keep saying, it's just a matter of faith. Krishna consciousness is just a matter of faith in Krishna. If you have faith, saying that, okay, Krishna will protect, yes, Krishna will protect. If you think, no, 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 how he can protect? It's like that. There's one story, one incident which is described. Narada Muni is going to Vaikuntha, so he comes and meets two devotees. One is a big Brahmana, scholar, etc., etc. So then he's very puffed up. So he then tells Narada Muni says, okay, I'm going to meet Narayana in Vaikuntha. So he says, okay, please ask him when I'll get liberation and come to him. Narada Muni says, okay. And he goes to a cobbler. Cobbler is very happy. I don't want to ask anything. Like, so he doesn't say anything much. Then Narada Muni goes to Vaikuntha and tells Narayana about these two devotees, and asks this question. Brahmana is asking, when will he go back? When will he come to you? So he said, and Vishnu says, just go back and tell him this, that, you know what Narayana was doing when I saw him? He was trying to put an elephant through the hole of a needle, through the eye of a needle. So then Narada Muni comes back to, he goes to the Brahmana first and tells Brahmana, so okay, okay, Narada Muni, you're back. What was Vishnu doing? Oh, Narayana was putting elephant through the eye of the needle. Ah, how is that possible? Elephant is so big. Eye of the needle is so small. You're just joking with me. So Narada Muni understood, so he just goes away. Then he goes to the cobbler and tells the same thing. Cobbler is so happy. He says, oh yeah, my Narayana can do anything. He's so powerful. Right? So that the faith, that's all. One doesn't have to be a big scholar, one doesn't have to be a big preacher, nothing. We just need to have faith, and we can, that faith is contagious. We can give that faith to others also. Mm. But of course, I mean, if we have read Srila Prabhupada's books, then there is high chance of us developing more faith in Krishna. Because by ourselves, we don't understand Krishna, right? So, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. So to understand Krishna in truth, we have to read Prabhupada's books. When we read Prabhupada's books, we will get that faith. Oh yes, Prabhupada is writing. Mm. And then Krishna will also show in our life, practically, saying, yes, I'm there. So surrender. Surrender means having faith. Otherwise, why will we surrender to somebody who's not capable enough? He is worthy of surrender. Saranyam. Saranyam means one who is worthy of surrender. So we should surrender to him. Mm. I know so many devotees, they have whatever they want in life, but still they are not ready to surrender because they're still worried. Oh, what if I leave? What will happen if I lose everything that I have? Why? That means we don't have faith in Krishna. We don't trust the process. Mm. Actually, Prabhupada keeps saying, if people who have various abilities, everybody should use their abilities, their position, their wealth, etc., etc., everything in Krishna service, then Krishna consciousness can be spread so nicely, right? And we normally see the devotees who actually willingly submit themselves to Krishna actually may not have really any of such positions, abilities as such, right? And Krishna consciousness movement is, growing even without this commitment of all those capable people out there, right? Just imagine if all those capable people, various types of capabilities, if they come and they offer themselves to Krishna, surrender to Krishna, how much more can this Krishna consciousness movement be spread? Mm. We keep struggling for just like, some 60, 70,000 rupees a month. We have to struggle to raise that kind of funds, right? What is 60, 70,000 rupees for people who have lakhs of rupees? Or, we struggle with, just few preachers who, we have shortage of preachers. Now, obviously, then even if there are devotees, because they don't read Prabhupada's books, they can't become good preachers. No, but there are so many people out there who are intelligent, who read so many books. If they just come to Krishna and read Prabhupada's books, then they can also preach, because they're intelligent. All kinds of capabilities, right? Uh, so we just need, at least as devotees, we should give everything. We should give ourselves to Krishna. We should not be. Uh, most devotees are planning for the future. What can we plan for the future? What is it? What is it that is there in our hands to plan? Craziness. Just depend on Krishna. That's all. That is the only insurance that we can get. Everything else is worthless. Anyway, so prapadya is important. We have to surrender. Surrender has to go on increasing. We don't start our surrender at back end of our life. We start surrender earlier on and keep on growing that surrender. That's the whole idea. And that's all based on faith. It's all simply based on faith. We have to have faith in Krishna. And Krishna is, I mean, he's such a person. How can we not have faith in him? So many beautiful qualities about in Bhumi. In the first canto, Bhumi Devi is, the bull and the cow are talking. Dharma and Bhumi are conversing about the pathetic state of Bhumi, and then Bhumi immediately she very in ecstasy mm, talks mentions 40 qualities of the Supreme Lord. So beautiful qualities, each of them. If you read those qualities, he will simply accept anybody who surrenders to him. We've seen in Ramayana also. Lord Rama says, even if Ravana comes and surrenders to me, I will accept him. So we have to surrender. It's like a child. Child is not using its own intelligence. Child simply depends on parents. That's all. And of course, there's some intelligence that can also be used, like we see in the life of Pandavas. Uh, when Ashwatthama leaves those Brahmastras to kill them, they are trying to lift their weapons because it's their duty. They are Kshatriyas, they're supposed to defend themselves and protect others. But then Lord sees, oh, no time. They don't have time to react. So he simply sends his Sudarshan. It's like that, yeah, okay, I have capability, I can try. But because I'm surrendered, if whether I'm able to do or not do, Krishna is there to take care because I'm dependent on him. So this is very, very important. It took me many years. I'm harping on this because it took me many years to understand that faith is everything. So it's very, very important. Please don't miss this point. It's all about faith, and Krishna is super capable, that we all know. So what prevents us from surrendering to him? Yeah. Yatpada pankaja palasha vilasha bhaktya karmashayam gratitam udgratayanti santaha tadvam na rikta matayo yatayo piruddha proto ganastam aranam bhajavasudevam. See, bhajavasudevam. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, which is jnanis and yogis, and of course karmis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Why? Because they are rikta matayaha, they are devoid of devotional service. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, son of Vasudeva, Bhaja Vasudevam. Tam aranam, see, worthy to take shelter. Sharanyam, aranam. We should engage in devotional service of the Lord. See, please note this. Always engaged can very easily overcome our material bondage. We have to be always engaged. We can't be part-time engaged and then say, okay, my hard-knotted desires are not going. If you are always engaged, it will very easily go. The three kinds of transcendentalists trying to overcome the influence of the modes of material nature, Gnanis, Yogis, Bhaktas, all of them attempt to overcome the influence of the senses, which is compared to the incessant waves of a river. The waves of a river flow incessantly and it is very difficult to stop them. Similarly, the waves of desire for material enjoyment are so strong that they cannot be stopped by any process other than bhakti yoga. Tivrena bhakti yogena. If you do intense bhakti, it can stop. The bhaktas, by the transcendental devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord, become so overwhelmed with transcendental bliss that automatically their desires for material enjoyment stop. So this is the key. We might be thinking, oh, I'm engaged in devotion for so long. Prabhupada makes all these statements, but nothing like this has happened in my life. But this is the key. When we engage in devotional service in such a way that we become overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, then automatically all these desires for material enjoyment stop. Because we are not letting ourselves we experience that state of bliss. Because we are not giving time at all. We are giving whatever little time we can to Krishna. and we are not taking up anything beyond our comfort zone. So then how can we experience transcendental bliss? If you experience transcendental bliss, then automatically all the desires for material enjoyment will stop. This is the key. The Gnanis and Yogis were not attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, simply struggle. Simply struggle. So devotees should not simply struggle. They should engage in devotion, experience transcendental bliss, and overcome all this material nonsense. They're described in this verse as Rikta Matayaha. Actually, Rikta Matayaha means brainless, devoid of devotional service, meaning if they have brain, they'll engage in devotion. In other words, Gnanis and Yogis, although trying to be free from the desires of material activities, actually become more and more entangled in false philosophical speculation or strenuous attempts to stop the activities of the senses. Very difficult. As stated previously, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairakyam Gnanam Chayada Ahaitukam. Here also the same point is just Bhaja Vasudevam, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga. Bhaja Vasudevam indicates that one who is engaged in the loving service of Krishna can very easily stop the waves of desires. Loving service. Always engaged. Always engaged. Experiencing transcendental bliss. They can very easily stop the waves of desires. As long as one continues to try to artificially stop the waves of desires, he will certainly be defeated. That is indicated in this verse. Desires for fruity activities are strongly rooted, but the trees of desire can be uprooted completely by devotional service, because devotional service implies superior desire. Again, this is the key. Is that superior desire to achieve Krishna Prema, that will drive us to engage in devotion in such a way that the trees of material desire can get uprooted. One can give up inferior desires when engaged in superior desires. Vishaya vinivartante. Niraharasya dehina rasavajam rasopyasya param drishtva. Param drishtva, superior desire. To try to stop desires is impossible. One has to desire the supreme in order not to be entangled in inferior desires. One has to desire the supreme. Gnanis maintain a desire to become one with the supreme, but such desire is also considered to be kama. Similarly, yogis desire mystic power, that is also kama. Karmis anyway desire material stuff, so that is kama. And the bhaktas, not being desirous of any sort of material enjoyment, become purified. So we should not be desirous, not be desirous of any sort of material enjoyment. There's no artificial attempt to stop desire. Desire becomes a source of spiritual enjoyment under the protection of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. It is stated herein by the Kumaras that the lotus feet of the Lord are the ultimate reservoir of all pleasure. One should therefore take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Meaning Saranagati, practical Saranagati, Anukulya Sankalpa Pratikulya Savajana. We should do that instead of trying unsuccessfully to stop desires for material enjoyment. As long as one is unable to stop the desire for material enjoyment, there is no possibility of becoming liberated from the entanglement of material existence. It may be argued that the waves of a river are incessantly flowing. They cannot be stopped, but the waves of the river flow toward the sea. When the tide comes over the river, it overwhelms the flowing of the river, and the river itself becomes overflooded. Then the waves from the sea become more prominent than the waves from the river. Similarly, a devotee with intelligence plans so many things for the service of the Lord that stagnant material desires become overflooded by the desire to serve the Lord. The waves should be so high that the waves of material desire can't be seen or become insignificant. As confirmed by Yamana Acharya, since he has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is always a current of newer and newer desires flowing to serve the Lord. So much so that the stagnant desire of sex life becomes very insignificant. Yamana Acharya even says that he spits on such desires. Bhagavad Gita also confirms Param Dristvani Vartate. The conclusion is that by developing a loving desire for the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, we subdue all material desires for sense gratification. Please note this, by developing a loving desire. For the service of the Lord, we subdue all material desires. Actually, this is the key. And there is always a current. There is always a current of newer and newer desires flowing to serve the Lord. Over flooded by desires to serve the Lord. These words are important. It's not some trickle. It's not a trickle of a desire. It's flood of desire. So we should have a flood of desire to please the Lord, to serve the Lord. Then material existence becomes insignificant. Material desires become insignificant. Please remember this word flood, over flooded. See, which is why Prabhupada's purports are so powerful. All of us can tell, right? I mean, myself, I don't remember having read these words before, right? So yeah, we can say, okay, I'm trying to do service, bhakti, devotional service, etc. But what is that? That's like not even trickle in the of or drop of water. And Prabhupada is saying here that it should be flooded, over flooded. So we should register these words. Now, in my head, this word will stick. Overflood. How do I overflood? Oh, how do I get overflooded with desires to serve the Lord? Overflooded. Meaning we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do something else. We don't have time at all. Okay, we are doing our prescribed duty. If we are in Grihastha ashram, okay, that's fine. That should increase our hankering further. Oh, I have so much things to do. I don't have time. Krishna, please help me. And that's how we make progress. That's how we get out of this entanglement. And I've been telling again and again, don't become very practical about devotional service. Become impractical. Become greedy. Take up more than you can actually do. And not that we take up and then drop it. No, take it and then hanker. Intense desire to be able to do that, to take up more. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. Amazing. Okay, I'll stop here. Anything? Anybody? The day before, is giving another class. And at the end of the class, so somebody said, Prabhu, your class is always whip lashing, like beating, whip, lashing of a whip. So I said, see, and then she was saying, yeah. Today, my whole day, my consciousness will be very nice. I will be engaged in devotional service. Then I asked, what about tomorrow? I said, no, tomorrow again I'll be back to square one. So I said, then what is the difference? What happened today, which was different from yesterday, or what do you expect tomorrow? He said, yeah, today we heard. I said, okay, Prabhupada's books are there. Take it and read it every day. You can hear the same things again and again. And every day you will get fired up to do devotion, to do pure devotion, not to do Mishra Bhakti. So as long as we are, stuck to Prabhupada's books, we are protected. We will be saved. Mm. So powerful, actually. I mean, I just it just keeps, like uh, it's just amazing. I'm always thrilled by reading Prabhupada's sentences. Over flooded, newer and newer desires to serve the Lord. So nice. Okay. Yeah. Anything? I think then we'll close.
No, Hare Krishna, bro. I think very, very deep and very rightly connected that the deep spiritual service is needed, and that is in accordance of what Srila Prabhupada says. So it is not that we are exerting any extra pressure to be in devotional service. I think it is needed because it is told by Prabhupada. So this is the ideal state, I think. Yeah. So it should not be surprise for devotees, according to me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Close. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhishta Kripasneभ्यो पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। समय Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam. Pranam to
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Pranam.